All right, welcome back to another Starter Spurts. Today, we are looking at Ben Simmons due to a absolutely dreadful performance in this 7-game series with the Atlanta Hawks. It was not Ben Simmons' time to shine. In fact, if anything, he's really lost a lot of trade value, and I can't remember the last time, if I ever have since I've been following the NBA, seeing a player lose so much trade value. But
So
don't
fast.
so fast. Yeah, no kidding. But don't worry, Philly fans, because we know that your hearts are broken, but we have some long-term solutions for you guys. So hopefully you'll like some of them. John, let's run through. What are you kind of thinking of for some trade ideas for Ben Simmons?
Yeah. So Ben Simmons, I mean, he's only 24. He's on his supermax deal contract extension from his rookie contract. So it's what it was 5 years, 170. I think is what we found before the pod. Um,
Yeah.
so he has. So to match money with him, you're going to need someone that has signed their max contract as well, or at least some expiring contract that has it in there. I've seen some that's like I saw one earlier that was Kemba Walker for him. Kemba and like a couple of fillers because he had a big contract too. I can't imagine Philly would consider it with how bad Walker was this year. Um, but I mean, I've seen some. I've seen one that was De'Aaron Fox for him. I think that makes a lot of sense for both teams. I mean, Simmons would fall apart in Sacramento because everyone does. But I mean, Fox would be a really good pool, a really good fit for Philadelphia.
Fox would be a
Um,
fantastic fit for Philadelphia. That would be
yeah.
exactly what they need.
If they want to go big, you could see maybe Simmons for like a Kristaps and Bronson and another player. Because I think Ben Simmons makes a lot of sense for Dallas. They need defense so badly.
Huh, that'd be an
Um,
interesting fit.
I could see him going to maybe the Grizzlies, giving up some young pieces for him. One I just kind of spitballed would be New York gets their star. They trade quickly and Barrett for him. But then unfortunately you have Julius Randle and Ben Simmons playing together,
You've
which is kind
got
of the perfect Thibodeau lineup if you think about it.
It really is.
Uh,
I mean, he could perfect his triangle very well with those two pieces and also flame out the playoffs really quick with those two pieces. It'd be Brick City over there during
bro,
playoff time.
Rose, Reggie Bullock, Ben Simmons,
Hey,
Julius Randle,
hey,
and Nerlens Noel.
I'm
What
listening
could
to
go
you.
wrong?
I don't think anything could go wrong. I mean, you have a defensive juggernaut there because, as we all know, basketball is one side. There is no offense. It's all
As we've
about the
learned from
defense.
Philadelphia in the playoffs, you don't need to play offense to win basketball games.
Yes. Yeah, we'll wait on that one. Well, we've got some other ones. There's been some hot ones going around. The clearest one right now, and actually the Vegas favorite, I want to say they're plus 300 at the time of this recording, or plus 200 actually, is the Portland Trailblazers. And the hot one has been CJ McCollum for Ben Simmons, and I've seen a lot of trade ideas where it's just straight up, although I have seen
Yeah,
variations of it too, where we add on a piece like Robert Covington or one of a young piece like Anthony Simons or Nazir Little in a trade
or
back for,
Collins.
yeah, or even Collins in a trade back for Ben Simmons and a couple of their auxiliary pieces, whether that be Maxi or George Hill or what was another one I saw? I know those were kind of the two top ones.
Shake Milton.
Shake Milton, yes, that was the other guy
Yeah,
who I
probably
saw.
more than Maxi too.
Yeah, but I think that that's really a win-win for Philadelphia and Portland both. Portland flamed out of the playoffs this year due to just a completely incompetent defense, and Philly flamed out of the playoffs this year due to a completely incompetent offense. And a lot of that had to do with Ben Simmons, but I think that Ben Simmons could get his mind right in Portland. I think that having a leader like Damian Lillard there, who's a strong, very, very strong mentally leader there. I think it would be a really good situation for Ben Simmons, and also the things that he'd be asked to do. he wouldn't be asked to handle the ball like he was at Philadelphia. He'd be probably placed in a forward position, which would be more naturally inclined to where he is. Plus, that's where we've needed a lot of help defensively at Portland. And then for Philadelphia, you get a player in CJ McCollum. And for those who aren't familiar, we're from the Portland area, so we watch a lot of CJ McCollum. He has his ups and downs, but he is really, really good. When Dame's been out, CJ is fantastic at initiating an offense and leading an offense. So I think CJ would bring a lot to Philadelphia that they have not had in the Joel Embiid the process era.
Yeah, and I think CJ gets no recognition specifically because he plays so much like Dame, and Dame's a better player.
Yeah.
And so, like, when I noticed, like, when Portland plays nationally televised games, like, when McCollum plays well, people are like, oh, yeah, CJ McCollum is really good. But people forget about him. Understandably, he's pretty much just Dame light. And I really think that the trade makes a lot of sense for both teams because, I mean, Philly, I mean, they tried their best to get shooting, but, like, their shooting they acquired Thompson was, like, Seth Curry, very good. I mean, it really worked out for them. And Danny Green, who, like, even when he's healthy, like, is barely a shooter. So, like, they need someone that can run. I mean, their pick and roll with Simmons and Embiid isn't very dangerous because you just double Embiid and then forget about Simmons unless he's out the rim. But if you have someone like CJ McCollum, he's going to hit an open jump shot.
Absolutely.
So I think it makes a lot of sense. And Portland doesn't need that scoring from CJ McCollum. I mean, you watched when McCollum got hurt this year, Portland was totally fine offensively without him. They were still terrible defensively. That had a lot to do with Nurkic's injury. But you just got to think you add, especially if you don't have to give up Robert Covington, if you can add another great defensive wing like Ben Simmons out there. I mean, Simmons, Covington, Powell, if you can resign him, and Nurkic together defensively, I mean, that seems night and day better than what we've been playing. What do you think, Kendall?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's such a win-win for both teams. It really is exactly what both teams needed. And Ben Simmons really did Portland a solid, putting Portland even in the position where the media has really caught on to this and is talking about this, because for a long time it was, well, we'd have to get Ben Simmons in a package with Dame, which would never, ever happen. Yeah, and it would never happen. So with Ben Simmons, just his fallout here in the 7-game series, it's really just tanked his value. Some other, though, trade options that I've seen that aren't quite as appealing, I think, for Philadelphia fans, although they would be appealing probably for some of these other teams. There was one here where the 76ers get Andrew Wiggins, Kelly Oubre, and a second-round pick in 2022 in return for Ben Simmons and Danny Green. So it'd be a trade between the Golden State Warriors and the Philadelphia 76ers.
Right.
Just off the top, I think it's a terrible trade for Philadelphia. I don't know why you would want that.
Why would Philly do that?
You're basically getting a guy who shoots bricks and then another guy who also has chronically shot bricks outside of last year. I mean, Wiggins had a good year this past year. I think he had a career high, I want to say, in points.
But you're getting like two worse Tobias Harrises.
Yeah, exactly. You're getting Tobias.
Like, what?
Yeah, basically you would have Tobias Harris version
like
1.0. Yeah. And then you have Kelly Oubre who shoots a bunch of bricks. And you're giving up defense and Danny Green. I don't see that. I don't understand why you would do that. I mean, if you're Golden State, I know why you do that. But for...
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean,
imagine a Simmons and Draymond Green front court. It's pretty bad offensively.
That is pretty rough offensively. I mean, I guess you
do have Curry and Thompson. But man, Simmons and Green together would be really tough.
Maybe Green goes back to his 2015 three-point shooting form where he hits 6 3-pointers in the row in the playoffs.
Backpack Draymond?
Yes. The last one that I've seen here, which is also not really a super appealing trade in my opinion, is the 76ers get Bradley Beal and Davis Bertans from the Wizards, and the Wizards get Ben Simmons, Tyrese Maxey, Danny Green, and then a 2021 and 2022 first-round pick.
Might be enough. I don't know if that's enough for Bradley Beal.
I don't know why you quite do that if you're the 76 or if you're the Wizards.
Yeah, I mean the Sixers would make sense to me.
Yeah. The Sixers, it makes sense. Bradley Beal and Joel Embiid would be an amazing 1-2 combo. And then
Yeah.
you'll have Tobias Harris. I mean, that would open up some spacing for him. And then Seth Curry. Now you go from a team who's challenged with spacing to a team that has somebody who can initiate an offense, be a shot creator, and you've got Seth Curry who can shoot threes. I mean, that's fantastic if you're the 76ers. That takes you to the next level, and you're a championship contender there. Um, for the Wizards, though, I don't see it unless if you're
I don't
really
know if
high
it's
on
enough.
if you're high on Maxey, I could see it. Danny Green, though, what's he really going to contribute? That'd probably be a piece that they would move.
They would move him to someone else for
Yeah,
sure.
so you're really relying on Simmons and Maxey, and I don't know if that's really what gets you to where you want to go to. I think the Wizards might take another year to just kind of rebuild. I don't know what their plans are if they're going to try and trade Russell Westbrook over the offseason or keep
Yeah.
him.
Another one that I saw was the Wolves trading D'Lo for Ben Simmons straight up, which I think is kind of interesting as well.
That's interesting.
I don't know if it really helps either team. I don't think it's the best deal for Philly, though D'Lo definitely would help them.
I just have a tough time seeing teams who aren't really contending or kind of that step behind contending. I don't really get why you trade for Ben Simmons because you're taking on a really large contract and a guy who is not proven at all that he can lead an offense. I just don't really see it. It doesn't really make sense. It's a move more that a team who's already got an established core, more or less. It makes sense for a team that's got an established core to pick up Ben Simmons, and he fits into that system rather than try and build your system around Ben Simmons, because that's kind of what Philadelphia did, and it clearly didn't work.
Yeah, and I think I was just mad. This Simmons for McCollum is like a force-fed trade from God for Portland. Like it just makes way too much sense. Like Portland needs Ben
I
Simmons
agree.
and Philly needs CJ McCollum, and Philly doesn't need Ben Simmons and Portland doesn't need CJ McCollum.
And
Like
I
it's just such a good trade for both sides, and both players, their stock is low from their like current teams, but I really think both players can play like a lot better than they played in the playoffs. Obviously, both were not very good in the playoffs, but I think a lot of that is product of bad coaching and just rosters that just like aren't super synced to play with each other.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree with that. I think that that's the best trade. Being a Portland fan, I know that that probably won't happen because Neil Olshey never takes the most obvious trade piece, and Daryl Morey might try and sell Simmons higher. I don't know. We'll see. But
We'll see.
personally, I think that that's the best trade. Let us know in the comments who you think the best trade should be for Ben Simmons. If you have a different trade idea, let us know. Discuss it. Fight about it. This has been another episode of the Starter Spurts, and we'll see y'all next time.